celebrating the world's most popular sport. This is Ultimate Soccer. And now your host, here's Soccer Steve.
Episode 2, guys. Charlton away, a violent day. Believe you me, it was. Again, I'd come home from a job. At this time, I was travelling back from Belfast to London for a 4-day pass. That might have given some of you a clue. Anyway, I get back to London, visiting family. Mark's there again. He's the general of the Palace mob, yada yada. He's like, listen, we're going to Charlton. You want to come? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. I mean, get me, I am going for a trip with me big brother because I love me big brother. So time with family's great. I'm not thinking of anything untoward. I'm just thinking of a great day. Fun time. I love football. And what could be better? So, Charlton away. Get in a van. We drive up to Greenwich area, which is near the River Thames. For all of you who don't know, it's not far from the River Thames. And no, nobody got thrown in the river. Joking. But it's near the River Thames. By the way, big thanks to Mark Cook before we move along. Thank you, Marco. Big up to you, sir. Great conversation. Now, moving along. No, you don't get thrown in the River Thames. I'm going to thank a few people as we go through because it's the best way to thank people. I don't think doing it all in one go is the way to tell a story. So, we're moving on. No time wasted. And if you are impatient, there is a video that gives you the short story of the whole escapade. If you have no patience, watch this.
So like I say, we're going from Selhurst Park and we're heading all the way over to Charlton, which is in the Greenwich area. And no train this time because it's just a short little journey. So we're taking the van, Mark's van, to the ground. So like I say, we leave Selhurst Park and we drive across the best part of London. And on the way, it's pretty quiet. You know, there's only half a dozen of us in the van this time. There's not the dirty dozen. There's just 6 of us. And like I say, Charlton, it was your local South London rival of the day. Still is, really, in fact. And Palace is number 1 on that score as being number 1 in South London as big team. Charlton, hopefully, one day will return. And a big up to Charlton. But as we are, we're making our way up to the Charlton game and we're looking for a pub. And Mark's always looking for a pub as we get closer to the ground. So we find a pub and in we go. And yeah, the Wicked Witch is where we land. And I'll tell you what, it was looked better on the outside than it did on the inside. Because when we went inside, yeah, everybody stared. Everybody stared at us. It was creepy. It was bloody creepy. Them Charlton fans were so not welcoming. It was untrue. However, we were just in there for a beer. That's all we wanted was a beer. And I told this guy a couple of times, you know, easy, mate. We're just here for a beer. He didn't know what I did for a living. Anyway, he slapped my mate Patrick in the face a couple of times. And on the third time, I said, fella, you got to kick that out. You got to kick that out. I mean, I'm stuck in the middle. We're surrounded by Charlton in the pub. And I told him, I said, listen, fella, 3 strikes, you're out. I said, enough, like, 2 times you've hit my mate. It's not happening again. No third time, right? He goes to punch Patrick right in the face. And I caught this guy's punch. I'm not kidding you. I caught this guy's punch. Smack on. And then wham bam, thank you damn, it's on in the pub. We're fighting our way to the door. This silly little guy, 16-year-old punk at the door says, you're not going anywhere, you're Palace. And then it spills out onto the street. And when it gets on the street, Marco says, split up, everybody, go your own way, run to the ground. And everybody did, and everybody got inside the ground, and we're in the ground, and we're at the Palace end of the ground, the away fans' enclosure. And Charlton's ground of the day wasn't pretty. I mean, looking at them pictures, you see what I'm saying. It wasn't pretty. But long and short of it, we're waiting for Mark to get back, because he's the only one who isn't in the crowd. By the way, that's the game day programme of the day. Charlton won that game. They also won the fight in the pub. We ran like you-know-what. And on that little red dot, that's where we met up, and that's where we met Mark. And after the game, we all got in a van. We're heading back home. Along the way, things do happen. So like I say, we're taking a trip back from Charlton now, returning back to Crystal Palace, Selhurst Park. And on the way, there was this bus stop. And someone looks out the window and goes, I recognise that guy's giving me a real you-know-what kicking. And then it overflowed. The bus stop, it's a punch-up, it's a free-for-all, and it's all going down. And somebody has got a pool cue. I'll tell you about the pool cue later. Well, eventually we do get out of there. We get back to Palace, and that was one heck of a violent day. Now, I'm going to fill in the gaps, because that's the nuts of it.
Now for the bolts. You've had the nuts, now for the bolts. And here's the deal. Like I say, I never went looking for any kind of trouble. I was always kind of just happy to be around my big bro and have some time with the family and go to a football match and everything's great. And as time wore on, I certainly realised that, no, Steve, you got to come to reality, son. It's not going to be a nice day when you go away with these guys. There's going to be problems, as was at Charlton. So, long story short, we get to Charlton, as you heard, and the pub. Go outside the pub, everything seems a little bit sort of uninviting, but we still go in because I'm just following the leader. We get to the bar. Mark goes to the barman, 6 lagers, Gov. We get 6 pints. All of a sudden, we are surrounded by Charlton fans because they know who is regular in that pub, yeah? They know who's regular. So we're surrounded. And it feels a little sort of unnerving for most people. But like I say, because of what I was doing as a job, I wasn't easily unnerved. And I wasn't there either. So the Charlton fans were like either side of us. There was at least 200 Charlton fans in this pub. And there was only 6 strangers who had to be Palace, right? Game day stands to reason. So we're in there, not panicking. And this big bully to my left, Pat was in front of me, Mark and the other guys were to my right, and I'm like in the middle. This big bully was right over there, right close to Pat, and he slapped Pat in the face, and I'm like, oi, that's enough. We're here for a beer, mate, that's it. No trouble. I'm like, okay, that should do it. Not 2 minutes later, and I'm really not 2 minutes later, bang, he slaps Pat round the head, and I'm like, oi, that's it. Over. No more. And then a good 5 minutes went through, and I'm not kidding you. And I don't know why I was standing up for Pat, but I don't like bullies. And I'm pretty much thinking you don't either. So, good 5 minutes goes through, and we're sipping on the beers, having a good time, feeling more relaxed, calming down, nothing's bad. And then all of a sudden, I see the big bully just getting his fist ready just to launch. Bang! Onto Pat's head. And Pat hasn't even seen this coming. And Pat, love him, is not a fighter. He loves football. He goes to watch the game. Anyway, big bully's really just ready to just unload this bang to the head. And I saw it coming as he unloaded it. And I'm not kidding you guys. But as he threw this punch to Pat's head, I caught his fist and threw it back at him. And I went, I told you, cut it out. After that, the whole pub went, just like when we walked in, it was like, silent. Well, when Big Bully was playing his game, there was a lot of atmosphere in the pub because they're all looking what's coming next because they're expecting a good fight and they're expecting to kick us to bits. That was a situation. I'm giving it to you real. We were way outnumbered and should have had the living, you know what, SHIT kicked right out of us. Anyway, at the bar, Mark's like, listen, pretend we're Millwall and we're going to go to the door. So we go towards the door. We've had our pints and Mark's made it sure to Big Bully that, look, we're Millwall. We're just coming to watch a game. That settled it down too because Millwall are a big mob. So we get to the door. All of a sudden, the 16-year-old, like you heard in the short version, he's like, you're not going anywhere. You're Palace. I literally picked him up and threw him out of the way. The door was glass. I was thinking of kicking it right through and going, but I just literally pulled it back and boom, we were out. Once we got out, we're like, okay, there's a vacuum release. That's a little bit of pressure off. Let's get at it. Let's get to the ground quick. Mark says straight away, split up. We all split up. Long story short, everybody ran their own way and we were being chased, but everybody ran their own way. We all ran our own gauntlet for no bloody good reason, that we just wanted a beer in a pub, but we're running the gauntlet. Everybody's on their own and everybody's been chased by at least a good 10 or 15 guys because this pub just spilled out and went boom, 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 pepper potted all around us and chased us. And I got to the ground because I was a fit little cookie and I could run quick. And I just went direct lines. I didn't look to cut corners. I went, I'm going straight down this road because they're not keeping up with me. I am gone. And so did a few other guys, apart from one. We'll tell you about who didn't when we get to the ground. So anyway, we get in the ground, and right to the left of the gold, and Charlton's ground was a crap ground. Nice now, but it was crap then. We're to the left of the away fans enclosure, and I'm looking around, and I start seeing the guys, and we start meeting up, and a couple of people have got a few bruises. I got away unscathed, lucky. And Marco is the only one who's not there. And apparently he ran down a cul-de-sac and got a good kicking, and literally got up and scurried over some garages to get away. Prior to that, he was running full pelt and nailed straight into a lamppost because he didn't look at the right second. As he was running away from a couple of kickings, bang! He goes into a lamppost, knocks himself out, puts shit all in his trousers, and I'm not kidding you, that's exactly what he did. And when he gets to the ground, he looks pretty pale. And I've never seen him look that pale apart from one day when we had a go around, but he looks pale. But I'm glad he's there. Anyway, game goes along, yada yada yada. Palace play like pretty average game. Charlton not startling, but Charlton win on the day, 1-0. So after the game, it's pretty quiet. There's a lot of people milling around. And we're in a van and we're slowly driving away, and then somebody says, "Oi, I recognise that guy from the pub." And we're like, "Oh, do you? Really?" And all of a sudden, Marx puts it in reverse, whoop, outside the bus stop, and everybody gets out, surrounds the bus stop, start questioning. Boom, fights on, yada yada yada, kicks, bricks, it's all going on. Windows get smashed at the bus station, and that pool cue, right at the beginning of the video. Now I'm going to break it down this way. When I came home, I was looking for a nice day away, just a nice trip, not a hooligan. But I did tell you before, you got to stand your ground. Our Stokey, Ethan, Devon, up in Stoke, Nick King. I told you this before. Big up to you guys in the Stoke faction and the Naughty 40 marker, especially Mr. Crossley. Big up to you. But I told you before, I came home to have a good time. You got to stand your ground sometime. I had to stand my ground. My brother got the shit kicked out of him. I had to stand my ground. And I did. And punches and kicks are going. And all of a sudden, there's this pool cue in my hand. And the guy that whacked me around the head with it is running down the street. And I'm like, I can't believe that my brother's had a kick in. I got smacked round the head by the pool cue now. Everything's gone upside down. Palace lost. All I did was want to come home and have a nice time. This guy smashed me around the head. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And I don't know if it was Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Jean-Claude Van Damme, but I got the full pool cue, and I'm like, whack! And I launch it through mid-air. And it's going down the high street, probably 20, 30 feet in the air. This guy's legging it like you know what. I mean, Mr. Bolt wouldn't even be quick enough to this guy because he's gone like the Roadrunner. And this pool cue's still going through the air. And he's running away, and he's going through the air, and he's running away. And all of a sudden, just like an atom, they hit. Back of the head, boom, he goes down, out like a light. And I'm looking going, oh, I think I just killed him. Okay, let's get back in the van, let's get out of it quick. Boom, 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 boom. Now, the Spanish beat part about it. Well, years later, one of the half dozen in the van with yours truly, and I'm not going to name names, was on a Spanish beach. And he starts talking to a guy who's from London. And they have a conversation. And the conversation ends with, what club do you support, mate? He's like, well, I'm Palace. And the other guy goes, oh, I'm Charlton. And then they start to talk, and they start to talk, and they have a conversation, and they have a conversation, and they have a conversation. One of our guys is talking to the guy that got hit on the back of the head with the pool cue. And he's like, I can't believe that little B-A-S-T-A-R-D got me right at the back of her head from so far away. He goes, how did he do it? And they were having a conversation on the beach. Now, nobody died, nobody got fried, but we could have had a royal kicking inside that pub. So if we hadn't fought our way out and run like the lights, all 6 of us would have ended up like Mark, no problem. But I'll leave nothing out. All I will say is, no, I'm not a hooligan, but if someone messes with your blood, like beats on your brother, I think you've got right to be excited. Now, you've got to remember, this was back in the 70s and the 80s, and it was when hooliganism was rife, so this is nothing new. The next story coming through is Stoke City 2. And just like good stories, there is a twist coming in these stories that you will not see coming. Because I'm always talking about something. Every time. And eventually, it'll just be me talking about something every time. I'll give you a big clue there. But Charlton away was a really violent day. And after the bus stop, I'm going to tell you this too. That pub that treated us so badly, somebody broke one of their windows. I don't know who, and I don't know why, but they threw something through the window that filled it full of blue smoke. That used to happen. That did happen. That wasn't our guys. That was somebody else. So apparently that pub may have figured in with hurting people from other teams over time. And maybe they'd beat up on Palace fans previous to us. But somebody certainly paid them royally in blue smoke. Why blue? I guess red and blue, Palace's colours. Anyway, Charlton away, true story. Break it how you will, but Stoke City Part 2 is next. And it was a different story. And I'm not going to give too much away. But I was with a different... Well, that's all I'm going to say. So there you go. It was a violent day. And it could have been such a nice day, just a game of football. Anyway, Stoke City 2 up next. And Ethan, Devon, our Stokey, Nick King, the rest of the Stokies. Thank you guys. Big up. And Scotty Granville as well. Thanks to you, my son. Yes, Mark Cook, Landon, Brandon, Lance, a few of the other guys. There's so many people checking in. And next show, you're going to love it even more. So, thanks very much.
Hey, this is Alexi Lawless, and I am listening to Soccer Steve, which is where I get all of my soccer information.